Hey everyone, hope everyone's enjoying their Saturday. Just want to stop by and share a few things here. Um, in regards to some of the recent things that we're seeing on the news and whatnot, I posted a couple things on the channel. Um, I honestly think it's a little bit too late for the U.S. to strong arm China to bend their knees, so to speak, to our will. They've gotten so strong economically, and they have such a tight hold on their political landscape in China. It's going to be extremely hard to change things. When you think about it, they're a communist government. They control the media, very strict laws, to whereas individuals can't really speak out or exercise any personal rights or dissent against the government. Otherwise, over here in the United States, we have the Constitution, we have a democracy, people have free speech, and we don't have to necessarily succumb to some political pressures. So in regards to the tariffs, there's a lot of things going on back and forth on both sides. Think about it from a holistic standpoint. After World War II, and several years after, China essentially was a third world country. I'm gonna put emphasis on third world, whereas there's a number of the population was in extreme poverty. Fast forward now, a multitude of Chinese were lifted above that status, and now, due to the number of imports they receive, well, no, let me erase that. Due to the amount of exports coming back to the U.S., our GDP is directly correlated to the Chinese market and their preservation. From a political standpoint, President Xi, why would he give up that kind of power and authority, number one, to the U.S., number one, to its people? There's no way in hell that that's going to take place unless you strangle their economic environment to a point where maybe they have some civil unrest and that power can be overthrown. As of right now, I don't think that's going to happen. I believe, when you look at most communist regimes or authoritarian, they can kind of force solidarity amongst their citizens because essentially they don't have a choice. Economically, once they join the World Trade Organization, they begin to just take off. I believe they joined in 2001. And obviously, the US, we wanted to spread democracy all across the world. I think in a way that's kind of our mistake as well. We tried to spread democracy, and there's some regimes in some states that we can do that, but there's certain places it's just not going to take. I think about China. I think about a lot of the parts of the Middle East. You're not going to change them into a democracy, especially given their spiritual beliefs, their culture. There's just no way. It's no way around that. And I think the better you understand that and, deal with the players at the table for who they are, you can strategize and, plan accordingly from a diplomatic standpoint. The 400 million of Chinese, where I mentioned earlier, whose wealth increased, remember, going from a third world country to now their wealth increased. A lot of that was directly due to the wipeout of the middle class in America. The 2 points I want to highlight here is, number one, they thought by letting the Chinese into the World Trade Organization, they will lead them to become a better democracy or become a democracy. Well, they say that, hey, free trade opens, the line, or opens the landscape to democracy for countries. That was the theme, and free trade balances that to where it should lead co- countries to become a democracy. Well, that completely flipped. If anything, the economic stimulus package that China received from the United States, it did the complete opposite. It strengthened their political party, and now they have a stronghold on China. The other aspect is the wealth gap increased, tenfold. So you had corporations manufacturing things in China, and it inflated their profits. And it was all under the guise of trickle down economics. Hey, if we can save on our bottom line, guess what? Prices will fall, which in some sense they do. Now we let that go on for so long with no checks and balances, in my view, i.e. tariffs. Now we're playing catch up, and we're trying to play damage control. And the problem is that I think China can withstand the turmoil a little bit longer than we can. It's a different culture, under a different regime. And I was watching CNN last night, and I believe it was Kevin O'Leary said slap China with 400% tariffs. Okay, cool. I agree, because they haven't been trading fairly. They've been stealing our IP in other countries, and there's a definitely huge trade imbalance. The problem is, one of the anchors said, "Well, you think most Americans feel that way? Do you think they can tough it out? Do you think they want a trade war, with rising prices and whatnot?" Well, you got to take a step back and realize sometimes we need to get a gut check. We've been so used to having instant gratification. Look at our society in the whole. Right now, we're pretty obese. We have a huge debt problem, huge spending problem, both from a public and private sector standpoint. And I think Chinese, and along with a lot of other countries, they are built better for tough times. The U.S. been living high off the hog for so long, all of us have, that I don't think we had a truly tough time. Or we know what true poverty is. We think about poverty in other countries. If you're born in America, you honestly don't know what poverty is compared to other countries. So when you put in that perspective, why do you think so many people are fleeing their country to come over here? It's one thing if you're born in poverty here and you don't have the option to succeed. Here you do. You literally can be born and change your circumstances if you want, if you were determined to do so. You can change their circumstances. So if you were born in poverty, you have the opportunity. A lot of other countries, you're born in poverty and you don't have that opportunity. You're just stuck there, hence why people flee. But whether it's Democrat or Republican, I think at the end of the day, both parties, because if you look at the Democrats back in the day, whether it's Clinton, most across the aisle, they were more in the middle. Most people were pretty moderate. And I just saw a clip with Nancy Pelosi in the 90s saying that how she was speaking on the trade imbalances in China. Again, no one did anything about it, both parties. And now we're stuck here trying to fight our way to get this thing balanced back and set the stage globally. Well, I think we just waited a little bit too long for that. And it's going to be fighting tooth and nail to reset the balance of things. What I will say, there's a few things that I believe that can take place outside of what President Trump can do. I think right now it's critical to establish partnerships with a lot of the surrounding countries near Asia. Because I think when it comes to just putting economic pressure on China, that's just not going to be enough. And again, even with the 90-day pause, I think Americans aren't really going to go for this war months and years at end, so to speak. But anyways, I digress. That's just some food for thought. And again, I want you to keep in mind going forward, we don't know what's going to take place. And so I would just probably caution all Americans to, stay steadfast. It's not about Republican or Democrat. I believe it is time to maybe, that baseball term, choke up and protect. I think a lot of people need to choke up and protect. I think Americans need to choke up and protect our interests, protect our manufacturing, bring back jobs to the U.S., but it's going to be with a cost. And none of this is going to be overnight. It's going to take years and years to bring back manufacturing and infrastructure. But I think you got to start somewhere. But again, I just want to share the point. People, you just can't. It's just stupid to look at things from a minute level and a personal level. Think about from a national level. Think about your national interest. If there's a huge trade imbalance, do you want our money going to another country? And then that country is building up their military. Remember, China years ago was not a world power. Now they're number 2. So from a third world country facing extreme poverty, now they're number 2. Well, who helped them get there? United States is the biggest corporate of that. So now you can't even put them in their place. You can't even check them. And I'm going to go on the limb to say, when you're thinking from the political realm, at the end of the day, United States, we're a global power. Either at some point, you have regimes and countries and empires either stay in control or they lose power. And I think we kind of relinquish some of our power and control, because I would say definitely the 90s, even early 2000s, if the U.S. told you to do something, you do it. There's no going back and forth. Even after World War II, we were so strong, we tried to spread democracy all across the world, it was good, because we realized, hey, we're the superpower. We crushed the Soviet Union. We're a light and a beacon to the world. And so let's do, God's will and spread the Constitution. That's fine. But then I think we just dropped the ball. And honestly, we're paying for it now, because now we have to kind of project and beat countries over the head and tell them to come to the table, when before it was a simple phone call and there was somebody on the flight immediately to speak with the president of the United States. I don't know. It's just interesting to see how far we've come from trading with China in the early 1980s to now, But anyways, more to follow. I'll keep everyone updated on some of the tariffs. I don't want to stay too long on it. I mean, obviously, if something breaking, I'll share it. But I think the social media is kind of oversaturated with tariffs right now. So I'd rather not just continue to pine on that all day. But stay tuned. Again, please comment, like the video, subscribe, turn on all the notifications. And the best way to get the message out is word of mouth. So please share. Thanks, everyone.